When you think about your skeleton, what do you picture? Probably something dry, maybe a little dusty, just a static frame that holds you up, right? Well, what if I told you it's actually one of the most dynamic, most alive systems in your entire body? In this explainer, we're going to dive into how this incredible building project is constructed and maintained for your entire life.
So let me ask you straight up, what is your skeleton to you? Is it just a rigid, lifeless scaffold, like the steel frame of a building that's already finished?
Or is it more like this? A bustling, living city with construction crews working around the clock, constantly tearing down old buildings and putting up new ones. Well, the truth is, your skeleton is way more like this living city. It's an amazing, lifelong project.
And just like any great building project, it all has to start with a blueprint. But for our skeleton, that blueprint isn't on paper. Nope, it's a flexible tissue that lays the foundation for almost every single bone in your body.
And that blueprint material? It's called hyaline cartilage. Long before you had hard bones, you had this miniature skeleton made entirely of this stuff. It's the same smooth, glassy material that still caps the ends of your long bones today, making sure your joints move smoothly. It's really the perfect starting material, strong but flexible enough to grow with you.
Now, this cartilage blueprint doesn't just sit there. It expands in two really clever ways. You've got oppositional growth, which is kind of like adding new layers of paint to the outside. And at the same time, you have interstitial growth, where the cartilage cells inside actually divide and push everything outward. This two-way growth is what lets the model get bigger, setting the stage for the real construction to begin. Okay, so the foundation is laid and the blueprint is set. Now it's time for the main event, turning that soft cartilage model into a hard, durable skyscraper made of bone. This is where the magic really happens. This whole transformation process has a pretty technical name, endochondral ossification. What you're looking at here is the entire sequence, a bird's eye view of how a simple cartilage model becomes a fully formed long bone, complete with that hollow marrow cavity in the middle. And this isn't a quick job. It happens over months and years. So how does it happen? Well, it's a super orderly process. First, a collar of solid bone forms around the middle to give it some support. Then, the cartilage on the inside starts to break down. Next up, and this is a key step, blood vessels show up like supply trucks on a construction site, bringing in the specialized cells that will actually build the bone. After that, the main shaft gets longer and hollows out. And finally, that whole process starts all over again at the ends of the bone. So what about those construction workers? Who's actually doing all this building? Well, let's meet the microscopic crew. These guys are responsible for pretty much everything, from that initial construction to lifelong maintenance and even emergency repairs. For today, we're going to focus on the two main players. Think of osteoblasts as your builders. Their whole job is to lay down new bone material. And on the other side of the coin, you have the osteoclasts. They're the demolition crew. Their job is to break down and clear out old or damaged bone. This constant dance between building up and tearing down is the real secret to your skeleton's strength. And the results of all that incredible work? You get this, an absolute masterpiece of biological engineering. You have this dense, super strong, compact bone on the outside, and on the inside, a honeycomb-like spongy bone, which gives you strength without all the weight. It's a design that architects and engineers have been trying to copy for centuries. But here's the crazy part. The project is never truly finished. The second it's built, the living city of your skeleton begins a process of constant renovation and self-repair that will last your entire life. This process is called bone remodeling, and it's exactly what it sounds like. Just like we see here, the demolition crew, the osteoclasts, carve out old tunnels of bone. Then, right behind them, the builders, the osteoblasts, come in and lay down fresh, new bone. This cycle never stops. In fact, you basically get a whole new skeleton every 10 years or so. It's been completely rebuilt, piece by piece. And if you want to see just how powerful this remodeling is, get this. On the left, we've got an X-ray of a completely broken clavicle from June 1st. And on the right, that is the same bone on July 12th. We're talking just 6 weeks later. The break is almost gone. How is that even possible? Well, it's possible because the very same expert crew that builds your bones in the first place is also your 24/7 emergency repair team. When you get a fracture, it kicks off this incredibly well-organized 4-step biological response to fix the damage fast. So first, a blood clot, called a hematoma,
forms at the break to stop the bleeding. Then, a soft callus made of cartilage, our blueprint material, forms around the break, acting like a natural splint. Next, our builder cells get to work, turning that soft splint into a hard, bony callus. And finally, over the next few months, that bony patch gets completely remodeled, back into strong, compact bone, often without leaving a single trace that the injury was ever there.
All right, for our final section, let's look at what might be the absolute pinnacle of skeletal architecture, the most complex and protective bony structure in your entire body. You might think your skull is just one big bone, right? Well, nope. It's actually an incredibly intricate puzzle made of 22 separate bones. And most of them are locked together through these amazing fibrous joints called sutures. This design gives it incredible strength, but it also allows for growth and leaves all the right little holes for nerves and blood vessels to pass through.
And deep inside all of that, there's this one bone that is just fascinating, the sphenoid, highlighted here in green. It's often called the keystone of the cranium because it's the only bone that connects to every other bone in your cranium. It literally locks the entire structure together. It's just a beautiful piece of functional design. And this sequence right here, it perfectly sums up our whole story today. Just look at the comparison between the base of a newborn skull, a 1-year-old's, and an adult's. You can see the enormous expansion and thickening that happens as the skull grows to protect our developing brain. It literally transforms from a fragile blueprint into a hardened fortress.
And none of this, not a single bit of it, is random. As the quote says, every bump, ridge, and groove on the surface of a bone is there for a reason. These are the marks left by your muscles pulling and your ligaments stabilizing. They're a record of your life's forces, constantly adapting the bone for its specific job.
Which brings us right to our big takeaway. Your skeleton is not just a static frame. It is a living, breathing diary. Every sport you've ever played, every injury you've recovered from, even just the way you walk every day, it's all recorded in the shape and density of your bones. It's your personal history written in calcium.
So, the next time you think about your bones, don't picture some dusty relic in a museum. Picture a dynamic, living city that is constantly adapting to you and your life. And that leaves us with one final question to think about. What story is your skeleton telling today?